Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Got some Nag, Champa, incense. It's good for a spiritual talk. Let's get into our Sunday study group for warriors. My hardcore heads. You guys are who I have the channel for. Let's get into this. Anybody out there want coaching or mentoring? Go to my website at skyazrael.com. Adjust the camera a little better. There we go. Let's just go through my notes and some of the stuff that I've studied over the week. I have a couple extra subscribers. Welcome to the channel. See, I got a new mustache cup going. Here's a message that some of you guys need to hear. If a woman cheats on you, it's not your fault. I have to say that again for some of you. I'll say it directly to you, bro. It's not your fault. If a woman cheats on you, it's not your fault. I've been cheated on more than once, and I absolutely thought it was my fault. What did I do? How did I go wrong? Did I cause this to happen somehow? Did I fail somehow? This is not on you. This is on her. You didn't cheat on her. You didn't force his dick into her. She did that. That's on her. It's all on her. What do you do when you've been cheated on? There's only one course of action, and that's to walk away. You don't talk about it. Well, let's have a discussion. You don't need no details. What drove her to it? Who cares? You just walk away. You don't argue. No emotion. You don't need to show her how angry you are, how betrayed you are, how hurt you are. You don't need to show her any of that. In fact, be emotionless, like it doesn't even matter. I had a pimp tell me one time, a bitch can be along the ride or that bitch can walk. And he told me straight out, I got no problems pulling that Cadillac right over to the fucking curb and saying, get out. And before she can start squawking, his tires are screeching and he's all the way down the block. Now that's harsh. I'm not a pimp. But I get it. You know, they have that saying, what would Jesus do? Right? You see those bumper stickers? Maybe you see those where you live. I see them where I live. I live in the Bible Belt. We see those. What would Jesus do? Sometimes you got to flip the script on it and say, what would Snoop Dogg do? What would a pimp do? Pimp would pull over and say, get out. You're either along for the ride or you can walk, bitch. I mean, I'm trying to lighten the mood a little bit, but please understand this, bro, that it's not your fault. It's not your fault she cheated on you. Let's talk a little bit about, let's do some sales stuff. So, this could be transferred to life. When you're trying to make a sale, you're trying to make some money. But sales are ultimately about relationships. That's the way I look at sales. What are you doing when you're selling something? Well, you're trying to get some money, but you're building a relationship with a client. And many times this client doesn't want what you have to sell and doesn't want to talk to you. Now, if you're lucky and they walk into your store, money in hand, your job as a salesman is pretty easy. You grab something off the shelf, this one or this one. But those of you who have been in sales have had the experience where some customers are more receptive than others and some don't want to talk to you at all, and you kind of have to tailor your game a little bit to each person. So you could transfer some of this knowledge towards your approach with women. I'm not a pickup artist, but this could be used in that way, I guess. So when we're talking about sales and trying to get a customer to buy something, you make tentative bids. You know, a bid is an estimate with some information, letting the client know what you can offer, what the service is, what the product is. You have to really listen to their responses. This is the key, and some salesmen fail with this. If you're not listening to their responses as you're making those bids, you're going to miss out on the sale. Because every single person has their own unique situation. So you have to be flexible and adaptable. Flexibly adaptive. In the moment. If they're real uptight, there's a way to deal with real uptight customers, potential customers. If they're real chatty, well, there's a way to deal with real chatty potential customers. But you have to be flexible, because everyone's different. And you may use one tactic with one customer and a completely different tactic with the next customer, and this may be in a 10-minute period. And some people are not flexible and they're not able to adapt. And they have poor survival skills, they have poor sales skills, and poor relationship skills. Now, when you're talking to a potential customer, a potential client, and of course this information is, you can adapt this to other things, but you want to find their opening. Now, if you're trying to think about women, we don't need to find their opening. We know where all their openings are. And sometimes we don't even need an opening. But with potential clients, you're looking for that opening. You know, the door into their world where they start receiving what you're trying to tell them, where they start saying, yeah, that sounds good. They start reaching for their wallet. But see, here's the thing. And you can give second and third and fourth efforts. I suggest not doing anything more than a second effort, but everybody teaches sales differently. I personally only do second efforts, and sometimes even a second effort isn't even worth it. But that's up to you. I've heard of third and fourth and fifth efforts. But you never stand in the way of a customer leaving. If they want to get up and walk out of your showroom, let them leave. Not going to be like, oh, hey, wait, or run after them. None of that. Let them go, let them go. Move on to the next one. It's a numbers game. Sales is a numbers game. Let's move on. I had to tell myself this earlier in the week. Do not cast pearls before swine. And for me, what this means is, do not offer advice to people who aren't taking it. At a certain point, you have to stop giving that advice. Your advice, your knowledge, are the pearls. That's valuable. Your knowledge is value. And it cheapens the value of your knowledge. It cheapens your knowledge. When you keep tossing it out to somebody who doesn't get it or want to get it. Let's move on. Are you aware of that chick Pearl? And she has a podcast called Pearly Things. She may have a few channels. How do I describe her? She's kind of a plain Jane, somewhat cute, red-headed chick in her mid to late 20s, I would guess. And she's kind of promoting this traditional woman thing. I don't know if you guys are aware of the traditional woman movement. I find it interesting. I like the idea of traditional women, especially as opposed to the stripper women. I'm not so much into Cardi B and that kind of movement that's supposed to be empowerment. I don't find strippers to be empowering towards women, but hey, what do I know? I like the traditional woman thing that's going on, and I like the message that Pearl puts across. And she interviewed 1,000 women, and let's just go over a couple of the points that I thought were interesting. So after interviewing 1,000 women, when talking about marriage, the married women, they left the marriage because they outgrew their husband. Now, more than 85% of divorces, I forget the actual number, but the vast majority of all divorces in America are initiated by the woman. The vast majority of all breakups in relationships, even if it's just a girlfriend, boyfriend, are initiated by the woman. Not all, the majority, statistically. So when asked, why did you leave him? Why did the majority of women are leaving men in divorces, why did you leave him? The number one answer that women gave was that they outgrew him. When I heard that, all I could think is, what kind of shit is that? What do you mean you outgrew him? Well, you raised your IQ by 30 points? You transformed into a fifth dimensional being of light and you floated away? What do you mean you outgrew him? What kind of shit is that? Sitting around on your cell phone spending my money and you outgrew me? I don't get it. But that's the answer. 80% of women in relationships gain 25 pounds or more in the first 6 months. 80% gain 25 pounds or more in the first 6 months of being in a relationship. As soon as she gets in a relationship with you, I don't care how good she looks right now, the vast majority of women are going to gain 25 pounds or more right away, instantly. Isn't that weird? After interviewing 1,000 women, Pearl found out that women value personal happiness over men and children. The majority of women asked held their own personal happiness over the happiness of their men or the happiness of their children. And that's extreme narcissism. And that's something to be aware of, that guys out there, that you may be focused on her happiness. You break your back to make her happy. Your life is about making her happy. Everything that you're doing is to make her happy. But her value is not shared. She's not trying to make you happy. The vast majority of these chicks out there, these women, are valuing their own personal happiness even over their kids. After interviewing 1,000 women, it was found out that men must live by their wives' terms. Must. That's a prerequisite. They have to live by their wives' terms. The woman sets the tone of the relationship. She makes the rules. She's the boss. And they're looking for a man that's going to live by her terms. The vast majority of the women interviewed answered this way. And to end it off, after 1,000 women interviewed, she found out that none, not a single woman, not a single one of the 1,000, not one, agreed to obey her husband. Not a single one agreed to obey her husband. Oh, I have more. I thought that was the last one. Sorry, here goes another one. After interviewing 1,000 women, all of them refused to do wife's duties and wanted to argue about the concept of what wife duties were. There wasn't a single one of them that answered, yes, I do the wife duties. Yes, not a single one. We wonder why guys aren't trying to get married. There's a lot of guys not interested in getting married. Now, I promote marriage, and I think it's a good thing, but look what you're getting into. Have a good Sunday.